Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
Selector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Best Served Cold, Joe's first standalone, and the next First Law entry after the original trilogy. On this episode, we review Evil Friends, Two Twos, and Plans and Accidents. So, let's get started. As usual, want to thank you all for your continued support. It was a good week of numbers, it seems like. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, bravo to us.
Bravo.
Bravo to you, the listeners, for listening to this.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys make it through, but you do. And as usual, just gonna little teensy reminder to follow us on our social medias, please. And that's pretty much it for my little initial volley. How about you, boys?
Did you just do like a little Asian accent?
No.
It kind of sounded like it might just be the audiobooks that I'm listening to lately, but yeah,
might be you are racist. That's
maybe
that I'm the only non-racist on the podcast.
We have it's been documented pretty extensively. Your many bigoted stances, Harrison. At least by me.
You bloody Portuguese bastard! The Spanish should have ruled the entire Iberian Peninsula.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Lord. All right.
Sorry, I got some weird genetic coding.
Yeah, that was weird. All right, interesting.
That's actually a thing, isn't it? In the 1400s, the Pope divided the earth between the Portuguese and the Spanish.
We don't want to talk about that. Jeffrey. I don't want to get into Jeffrey right now.
After that brief but xenophobic little side conversation there between me and Harrison, we now are going to. Oh yes, George, you were saying you were also going to remind the audience too.
We haven't been posting a lot on Instagram or anything else because, well, frankly, it's a bit fucking tiring, isn't it? I usually don't do social media, and I know Harrison doesn't really either, a little bit, but.
Honestly, I don't mind it that much. It's just my job is very intense, and I don't like saying that, but it is. So it whenever I'm at work for these long hours and I'm doing my job, I don't have a moment of time to hop on and make a quick post because we try to put a lot of thought into our posts. And so if we're busy, it makes it really difficult to make something worthwhile.
And yeah, exactly. And we're all the same. We all work fucking 45 hours a week. I don't know about Jeff, but
very rude.
I know.
I make up for him with my 55 hours. I work for you, Jeffrey.
Just because I work from home, you sons of bitches. Okay.
Mate, if I could do my job in my pajamas, I'd be sorted.
Oh man, you have no idea what goes on the bottom half of my my body when I'm on the camera.
Yeah, but keep a lookout for things that are coming soon. You'll just have little previews. AI art, of course. I mean, I know a lot of people reacted.
We'll talk about that one later. We'll talk about that one.
Yeah. So that's everything. So thanks everybody for listening this far, and we appreciate you.
Thank you all. So let's go on to our first chapter read through, which is Evil Friends. We're here at Monza's perspective, right? And we have entered some building that was Benna's favorite place in Westport. What could it be? Oh, it's a barbershop, baby. Okay.
And it was about the looks. He liked looking good.
Yeah, boy. A lot of mirrors, polished wood, and then we have a barber with an apron. He's got the whole skoodoodle, right? And he goes. The barber, as soon as he sees Monza, he says, "Hey, it's great to see you. Hey, where's your husband, buddy?"
My brother.
Yeah, you were. Oh no. And she goes, "My brother, and no, he won't be back. But I have a different challenge for you." And in enters Shivers, our resident foreign northerner. So I know those are two conflicting ideas, but anyway, he is, he's a big bastard and he has a long hair. And the barber goes, I see what you mean. And
I believe I see the problem.
Yep. Yo.
Yes, the audiobook version for those who just read, is very, very Italian.
That was some Antonio accent right there. Holy shit, George.
I'm not even sure that's exactly how he says it.
That's hilarious. I believe I see the problem. That's hilarious. So, he says all off, she confirms, and then she gives him some money and tells him, hey, just be gentle. He might startle. He's like new to this. He goes, of
He's like
course.
I want to
he's
ask
like a
about this
horse.
as well, because she also says that she gives him a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I also wonder what that meant. Does that mean like a quarter of a scale, or like?
Yes.
But we don't see any other example of less than a scale.
Right, exactly. So we know that this is like got to be the only one because what was
That seems
thing?
like a very low amount to give as a tip to a
Actually,
high
it's a
scale barber.
good amount because don't they? They have referenced it before. Like when in the flashback, they talk about how when they're getting their money and stuff like that, or even with Shivers, how what does Shivers say when he bought that piece of meat? He was like, "Oh, it cost a whole scale," implying that like, you can divide it.
Yeah.
He's
I
like,
mean, a
that seems
scale
super overpriced.
is a gold coin, A gold coin is worth a fucking
Yeah.
lot.
It's hard to say how, like, what, is it like just a silver coin? Is that like a quarter? Like, I don't, it's difficult to say for that, but, a scale is a good amount, but they do break it down. I mean, they even talked about too, like, then they plow the entire field, and the entire north field would only get them like 2 scales, and this guy has so much, so it's got to be divisible,
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And when it comes to the barber, it's actually a good amount. I mean, just a haircut. I mean, and he's definitely going to be renowned enough for them to go to him. Because Benno would probably not go to some cheap old barber. He's probably like, oh, I am like a renowned barber in Westport,
Yeah.
But think about it. Like if he does fucking 20 haircuts a day, it's pretty good living.
Yeah. And it's before inflation, baby.
Yeah. And he
It's
does
okay though. You could
well.
just clip your coins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So Monza gives him some money and, says, like I said, be gentle with him. He startles. She turns around and Shivers has his shirt off. He misunderstood. When they said all off, he goes, no. We're talking about your hair, not your clothes.
And it's like, I like how he's just like, yeah, I thought it was weird, but you guys are fucking weird, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then she watches him put his clothes back on, and she notices like he has a couple scars. And I guess back in the day, she might have thought scars were ugly, which is interesting given her choice of profession. But now she definitely had to change her opinion on scars because she's covered in them. And so Shivers, he's getting ready. He sits in the chair. He's like, "Oh man, I had this hair my entire life, all this stuff." And then the barber's like, yes, well, now it's time you release yourself from the burden. And he whips out his scissors with a flourish, and Shivers is not prepared for this. He goes, what the fuck?
You get the full-on PTSD reaction.
Yeah, he's like, I never met, a man I never met near my face with a blade. And he goes, and then the barber goes, I doth must protest. And the finest barber and all that jazz. And then Mazda has to settle it, calm down. Shivers, relax the fuck up. And then he goes, I'm watching you. It's like, and the barber, he sighs like he's a tortured artiste. And he begins his work. And
I do like the fact that, like you said, Harrison, this is kind of like a PTSD reaction. It's like every single person that's ever come near him with a shiny piece of metal is trying to kill him. So
yeah,
that's actually a reasonable reaction.
Yeah, it definitely is reasonable, and it also kind of gives insight into like why so many people in the north have longer hairstyles and why it's known for them to have longer hairstyles for a couple reasons. One, they're not renowned for barbers. If you're gonna cut it, you're gonna cut it yourself. Two, the north, if you're gonna have a blade, it's not gonna be just a fucking cut hair. Who's gonna waste good metal like that, and three, they don't have fucking mirrors. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? So
yeah, George, you want to add anything to that?
I think it's interesting because I like the way that Joe does this, where the Northmen are actually just like kind of like savages. Like none of them have ever like taken a bath on purpose. Maybe by accident, but not on purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But compared to real life, where if they're going to be based off like Vikings, for example. Like Vikings were very clean. They like bathed every like twice a day and like oiled their hair and shit.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like they literally are the stereotypical savages.
Yeah, exactly. They're more like what like the Romans would see as like a barbarian than would be like a northern kind of stereotype these days.
Right, but okay, all right, I see what you mean, but I don't think we ever got the sense that I don't remember hearing anything about Northerners being dirty, except for like when the dozen were, on the run, in the first trilogy.
Yeah, but everybody's always on the run in these games. Everybody's always doing something or going somewhere.
Right, it's true, but like no one's got time for a grooming routine when you're on the run. I will say that the Vikings still had long hair though, right? Like it was like generally, right?
Yeah, but they took good care of it.
Okay, and so I imagine Shivers has got a great head of hair.
I don't think he
But
does.
I don't think he does. No, it's very specifically described as being unkempt and like kind of like hanging over his face.
Really?
And stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, all right, my bad. Jeez, calm down.
I mean, even Logan said. I mean, they enjoy taking baths and things like that, but the guys that we follow throughout the series, I think to Jeff's point, like the people that we follow are always on the move and always going about and always fighting things like that. But most of the men in the North are like this, like they're the most civilized you're gonna get is like a village, and even then, you maybe there's a tavern there, in your own home if you're able to build one and maintain it and have a farm and stuff like that. Yeah, you have like a bathtub that you heat up water and things like that. Sure, but like it's all very classic, typical like Germanic savage kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Righty. Well, thanks for that. I like that. All right. So Shivers, you a dirty bastard. So Monza is walking around the barber shop while the barber is going about his work. She sees herself in the mirror and she's just like, ay. She's not really the biggest fan of herself, but she's still looking good. But one thing that is different about her is now she is an addict. She's out here craving that husk, and it's not good for her. It's not good for her. And then she hears, Shivers at this point. He's like, "Oh, I've always worn it long. It's just, my brother had long hair, and I guess I did the same thing. Just try to copy him, look up to him like little brothers do." And Monza, is thinking to herself, "Oh, this guy. Some people, when they're nervous, they shut the fuck up. Other people, they don't shut the fuck up. He is of the latter camp." And he asks her, what was her brother like? What was Benna like? And she goes, "Well, he was a good man. Everyone loved him." Okay.
We'll be laughing about it. We don't know anything to the contrary yet.
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Yeah, cut that out, George. Cut that out. I guess maybe don't. So we'll learn about that. But then Shivers says that his brother was a better man than Shivers is. There's nothing.
I love this little bit where he says, "My dad never took me like a second opportunity to tell me that my brother was better than me."
Yep.
What a trauma that is! Jesus Christ, poor kid.
Not fun at all. And people to focus on not getting other stuff cut in a battle, like their body, so they didn't care about their hair. But Black Dow, always cut his hair right off. He used to hack it off. But then, Black Dow will laugh at, anybody for anything. Black Dow, hard mouth, hard man.
Yeah, I love the way he says that in the audiobook as well. Sorry. He's like, hard mouth, hard man.
Only man harder was the Bloody Nine himself, I reckon. And then, that's a nice little tidbit drop there. Monza, basically says, someone that doesn't really know the language too well, you talk a lot.
And I find that interesting. That's another thing that I find interesting is that the Northman's dialogue and even the inner monologue and even the prose in their chapters is always much simpler than other characters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, for sure.
So when he's talking, he never uses a word that's more than 2 syllables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe 3.
Or maybe 3. Anything. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of like subtleties, like whenever, like what you guys are talking about. Joe does a really good job with the Northmen in general of like whenever they're talking to people outside their language and all that, in their culture in general in comparison. He does such a good job at distinguishing it without like he does openly say it a lot in this book, but in other books they don't say anything at all, and it's very clear that that person's a Northman without having to say it.
All you have to do is make him say, I reckon.
Yeah, yeah.
I reckon. He calls himself. I just like to talk. I'm one of those. What do you call it? And she goes, idiots. And he goes, no, there's a different one. Optimists. Yeah, that's right. And Monza gives him a little grief about it. Saying that optimists never learn. But then she kind of she's really praising Shivers right here, and she thinks he has a very good looking face. And she asks him about, oh, you were a soldier, right? What do they call them in the North? Carl. So she knows. She's very well read, Monza. She's educated. She's read on Verturio and all that jazz. He goes.
She knows like the basics about a lot of cultures and the way they fight.
Yeah.
From the way that we see, and this, get a bit of spoilers, but
yeah. He says that he was a named man, so that's obviously a step above a Carl.
It's a made man.
Named man.
It's a made man.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're doing. I agree.
That's the way it is, right? Like it's a thing that follows throughout culture. It's just like whoever in charge picks to be a fighter. That's it. That's basically what that means. It's like the mafia. You're a made man because you did a favor for somebody.
Yep.
Okay, made men. All right.
Do you not see the parallel there?
I do. Just threw me off. That's all. So basically, he tells her about his father was a famous man, his brother as well too. And then she asks him, why would you come down here though? Why throw that away? And then we learned that Shivers, I guess, had talked to Morveer, and Morveer said that she was a famous soldier. And then she knows war. Yep, seen battles. Yep. So she knows what goes along with it: marches, sickness, raping, robbing, crippling, all that jazz. He basically says, that blood only makes more blood. That settling one score only starts another. And that is a throwback to Dogman. Back when Dogman was talking to Shivers back in Last Argument of Kings. So that's why he'd rather be free of it. He wants to make something grow, something to be proud of, instead of just breaking. He wants to be a good man. He guesses. So she says, "Oh, really? So you've seen Dead Man yourself then, right?" And he goes, "Uh-huh."
Can I jump in there, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. Jump in right here, baby.
I love this little monologue that the Monza gives him, where she's like, "So you've seen dead men?" It's like, yeah, I've seen a lot. You've seen a lot together, stacked up after the plague came through, spread out after a battle. I'm like, yeah. Did they have any kind of special smell or like a little glow about them? And it's like, well, they turned to shit just like the rest of us, right? They didn't turn to gold or something. And it's just like, it's such an interesting thing for Monza to bite back there. Because she's trying to justify all of these things that she's had to cover for that we won't get into.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also completely irrelevant. Like you can go and try and be a better person, and even if you do get killed, it doesn't mean that you're ready. You might be worse off, but you still did what your conscience told you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be worth more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's such an interesting little tidbit there, even though it's like a couple of lines.
Yeah, I mean, it's a decent, it's a couple paragraphs, the way she's just like being a dick to him. Right?
Yeah, I really like that she, I agree. It's basically like she's had this conversation with herself already.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like both saying it to him to validate her own opinion, but also to be like, no, you don't understand. You're too naive. No, I know how this works. I do.
Yeah.
And it's it is
also,
pretty interesting.
Yeah, also
to hear,
it also justifies her current mission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's just so it's very, very poignant, this little bit. And you might say it's on the nose, but it's only on the nose if you've already read it. And again, if you haven't read it, just keep reading.
Yep. At some point, Shivers goes, "Wow, you're real positive-minded." Okay, Jesus. And then he was gonna try to keep thinking his way just the same, just trying to be a good man, a better man at least. And then she, shakes her head, and in her head, she says to herself, give me only evil men for friends. Virturio wrote, them I understand. Anyway, so then we hear a bit of a flourish. The barber says, I am finished. And Shivers is staring into the mirror, and he just looks like a different man, doesn't he? He has a short haircut now. I don't think it's a buzz cut, but I think it's definitely short, way shorter than he's ever been used to.
Yeah, he's got a coif. I can imagine like the Superman curl at the front.
Oh, that's hilarious! A coif, yeah. And he thinks that that's a better looking man, a cleverer man, but he's not sure if he trusts that bastard though.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then the barber
And
goes.
that's another thing that I want to mention, Jeff.
Yeah.
I really like the fact that Joe brings attention to the fact that you can change your kind of mindset just by getting something like that, by getting a haircut or
Yep.
getting a new outfit or having a shave or doing something like that. Doing something to improve yourself like that.
Or your
can really, really change your perception of things.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. And I guess it's because it's unfamiliar to Shivers, right? We're thinking about it like, he comes from a place where you generally, there's nothing wrong with having long hair. The only one that he knows from the north that doesn't have long hair is Black Tao, and that's because Black Tao is a psycho. He's like, I only keep it short because no one can grab my hair in battle. Who thinks like that? But here it's, he's forced to get a haircut to blend in so he doesn't stick out and, tip their hand as to the group's intention of going on a nationwide tour of revenge. So
exactly,
he is inherently, in this case, in this setting, he is an untrustworthy person. And now it's kind of coming, it's made true physically by his new haircut. He's becoming a different person.
Yeah, he is becoming a different person, and we can see that because I've actually had personal experience with this because I used to have hair down to like my waist.
Damn.
Like long blonde fucking locks. I was the proper headbanger back in my day.
Voluptuous.
Long live Slayer. Anyway, when I cut it off, and I just switched to like a short haircut, people like treat you completely differently.
I imagine, yeah.
It's actually insane, like to the degree that people would treat you differently just because of like preconceptions about certain things and the way that you might behave if you look like a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
No,
so I can imagine what Shivers is going through here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like he doesn't really recognize himself with that, and if that's true, then maybe some other things maybe not be true because I really like this highlight. You said it earlier. It actually put me on to the thought, George, is basically like, he's trying to follow what has been told to him, what is good and what's bad. Like his dad would be like, oh, don't do this. That's bad. That's good. But he doesn't. Well, we'll get more into Shivers' like backstory later, but without spoiling anything, he doesn't actually really know what it is to be a good person. So he's pursuing this empty idea. And that's an idea that I think really distinguishes him from Logan, is that Shivers is naive. He doesn't really know what is good or bad, not truly. And he's just grasping at some empty husk of it, which is why he has a hard time really getting his heart into it and really knowing what's right and wrong. So we can grasp more on that later, but I really, really love, I didn't even think about kind of that aspect until you mentioned that, how, he's trying to follow what his dad said. But, and then at the same time, Manta's like, whenever he's talking about those things in his past, Manta doesn't even seem to be hardly listening. She's just like, he kind of looks like my brother.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and those are good points, fellas. Good points. And just wanted to get back to just finish off this part of the chapter. The barber goes, and to finish, and he takes a bottle of perfume, it seems like, or aftershave, it could be, and sprays it all over Shivers' head. And Shivers reacts. He's like, "What the fuck?" Pushes the guy away. And Mons is cracking up laughing. She goes, "Okay, looks like a stereo nobleman, maybe. The manners, not yet." And she gives him more money because he's just been having to deal with this savage northerner. So then it's a bit of a break, and we go to to the mansion where they are chilling, the group, Monza and Shivers. And they walk in, and Day is sitting at the table, looks up at Shivers, goes, "Wow, an improvement." And Morpheus goes, "Mm-hmm, very much so. A dirty, long-haired idiot," which you guys are right. I guess dirty, long hair. You're right, unkempt. And now he's a clean, short-haired idiot. So, man, he's really endearing himself to our characters here, isn't he, Morveer?
Morvir is just intensely unlikable, but at the same time, quite charming. It's strange.
Funny, funny. So Monza, it's interesting. She goes, "Well, since you're not, singing your praises, the job's not done. I don't think." And he goes, "Nope. The Malthus is a most cautious and well-protected man. The bank is far too heavily guarded during the day." So one thing I want to note real quick here is that she's leaving the murder. She had initially left the murder of Malthus up to Morveer. Like she wasn't even gonna want to witness it or anything like that. Obviously, she knew that basically the first time Morveer went to the bank, it was more of a reconnaissance mission than anything, but that he would, if he saw an opportunity, he would take it, right?
Yes.
So, interesting that for her, even though she wants Malthus dead, it isn't as personal for her, I guess. Not Malthus's death in a way. But then we see that we'll see that change maybe in a little bit. Anyway, so then she goes, "Okay, well, what about on the way to the bank?" He goes, "Nope. He leaves by armored carriage with a dozen guards. No, no, no." And then they think, "What about his house?" Nope. He lives on a walled island in the bay where several of the city's aldermen have their estates. The public are not admitted. They have no method of gaining access, even if they could deduce which one is his house. How many guards or servants or family members are there? We don't know. He refuses to do the job. That difficulty on conjecture. Because what does he never take day? One of you be day. Come on.
Chances.
There we go. Chances. That's correct. He deals in certainties. And that's why she hired him. So basically what his plan is going to be is that he only needs to gain access to the bank during the hours of darkness. And he does this thing where he, again, this little rapport with Day. He's like, "How do I plan to do that, Day?" And she goes, "I'll do it."
Through the rigorous application of observation, logic, and method.
Precisely so. And Monza glanced sideways at Bennett, except Bennett was dead, and it was Shivers. And Shivers just raised his eyebrows, and he blew up. He just like, "Oh boy." And that's the end of that chapter because they're both just like up to here with these two fucking poisoners. How would you boys rate that chapter?
What would you rate it, Jeff?
Why the fuck?
Because you never go first, Jeff.
That's because I always ask you guys.
Yeah, well, I asked you this time.
I asked you first, you more.
Okay, so
Hold on.
Jeff, how would you rate that chapter?
Give it a 3 and a knuckle. I don't know. I mean, it's not,
Whoa.
What, dude?
we need to go back to our disclaimer where just because it's a low score doesn't mean it's a bad chapter.
Oh, I know. I'm just surprised. Go ahead. Go. I want to hear.
It's literally we just get a scene of them in a barbershop. So yeah.
But it's so much.
I mean, it's so much in terms of what we know that we know who Shivers is. We know where he comes from.
We literally just talked about it for like half an hour.
Right. But I'm saying, like,
Do you really know who Shivers is, though?
oh
Jeffrey?
God, we didn't get a lot to move forward the plot. We just get him getting a haircut, right? And then he freaks out, which is funny comedy, which is good. And then that's it. And then they move back to the mansion. They go back to the mansion, and okay, Morveer didn't kill Malthus and has to come up with a plan. Where he needs to get access at night. And that's it. I mean,
Okay, I was going to give this a 5 and a knuckle, and I thought that was a low score.
Well,
because the character work is so fantastic. You see so much in these little interactions between, like, things are always weird when you have people that know each other and a stranger, because everybody's like the interplay between how you want to react to somebody that you don't know and somebody that you do know. Will bring out different things, and the way that Joe writes that is really, really interesting, and the way that Monza is clearly trying to recreate her brother in Shivers.
Yeah.
It's just so I don't know. It's such an interesting character thing because at this point we still don't know if that's weird or not. You know, the barber goes, "Oh, it's your husband." And it's like, "Oh no, it's my brother." Like, but I don't know. At this point they still could have just been really close, right? But not weird.
Sure.
It's difficult to look back in hindsight after we've already read the series a couple times.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for me to say at this point. The first time I read it, I was definitely like,
Mhm.
sus.
It is pretty sus. But I just for that, I think I'll give it a 5 and a knuckle.
Okay. 5 and a knuckle. Harrison?
I'm gonna go 6 and a knuckle. I think that
you guys.
I think the like you said, exactly what George said. You know how they're highlighting both. Joe is able to highlight Monza's flaws and Shiver's flaws and some of their positive traits without either one of them knowing that that's what they're doing, and I think that's incredibly well written. But it is fairly short, and it is just them basically going and back and forth. It's just really well written dialogue, really well done character setup, and you just learn so much about these characters, especially when you on a second read through. It all lines up really, really well. And even now, even this chapter read through, when we're talking about it, I feel like I learned something else about Shivers. So, yeah, 6 and a knuckle for me.
Not to mention the comedy. That's something that I left out there. The comedy.
It's really funny.
The barber just being an absolute fucking stick up his ass, like pretentious fuck.
Hey, he takes his job very seriously, I'll have you know, good sir.
I took him the hair of the Westport's finest gentleman.
Well, I am sticking by my score. I think it's a good chapter. I just, gave it a 3 and a knuckle. Sorry. Anyway.
You're forgiven, Jeff. It's fine. Move on.
All right, we'll move on. So we'll move on to our next. Segment, which is best meme of the week. Georgie boy, this is you. Take it away.
Actually, George is not a Super Bowl fan, and neither am I really. But I did watch the game, and the best meme of the week this week is the meme that's been going all over the place with Travis Kelce, and I don't remember the coach's name. Jeffrey, help me!
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid. It's the meme. I think a lot of people will know it. It's whenever Travis Kelce, he didn't want to look. He thought he was looking bad in front of Taylor Swift, so he walks up to Taylor Reid, and then he's like screaming at him. And the meme is Salt as Travis Kelce screaming at Glockta, and it's really perfect. It's really funny.
Glockta, you crippled remnant.
You're not half as crippled as you could be.
You're not half as crippled as you could be.
Yeah, Salt talking to Glockta whenever the smallest thing goes wrong.
It's just so perfect too, because this meme is like it's so applicable to so many situations. It's great. It's one of those iconic memes.
Mm-hmm. It's great. It's really good. And we can see like Andy Reid, he's closing his eyes, like Glockta's probably like, oh my god.
Yeah. Like, I just don't need this shit right now. I'm just trying to do my job.
I am the only competent inquisitor you have here. What the fuck? Oh man.
I know this is totally random and offshoot, but my favorite one of these memes so far that I've seen is Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps. I know it's completely off topic, but I just can't help it.
I know exactly what you mean.
Didn't we see that for First Law somewhere? That was recent. I thought
at some point, yes.
I thought I saw something like that.
I know there's been 95 memes of the week, Jeff. You can't expect us to remember all of them.
95? Holy shit! You mean?
Speaking of which, we are updating that soon. So if you want to see every single meme of the week, you can see it on the website. It's circleoftheworld.com.
Oh yeah, we got some stuff in the pipeline. I know we talk about it all the time, but we actually had a whole episode, a discussion about it. So, anyway, thank you, fellas, for that best meme of the week. Appreciate it. So move on to our second chapter read through. This is 2 twos. We can kind of accurately
It's
guessed.
always a friendly chapter, right?
Yep. When you get numbers like this, it's friendly, baby. And so he is rolling some dice again, and that the dice came up two twos. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. Add the dice or multiply, it's the same result. It made him feel helpless, that thought, but calm. All these people struggling to get done what get what they need to get done, but it turns out the same. The dice were full of lessons if you knew how to read them. He notices that the group had formed two twos. Morveer and Day were one pair. Then it's Monza and Shivers. He sees them like, oh, interesting. And now he's left alone in the shadows. Maybe there's something wrong with him, the way the judges had said. Okay, something's up
That's
with
an
him.
interesting aside there.
Yeah, that's all right.
Friendly is definitely misunderstood by society, right? He's not just a. He's not. He can't just be a complete psychopath, right?
Maybe,
Maybe. Oh.
but I don't think
We're
so.
all. I don't think once in all of Friendly's inner monologue does he ever think a bad thought about anybody else.
I think so. Maybe.
I mean, maybe a negative, like a negative opinion, but like nothing violent or anything like that.
What?
Mm,
Well, no, I think. Well, I know what you're saying. He's not malicious. He's not like, I'm gonna do this because I like killing. He's just like, this is a job. I do this because loyalty, because X, Y, Z, because numbers, because the dot. Yeah, like
Well,
I know
I
what you're
don't
saying.
think I don't think it's as simple as that. I don't think it's anywhere near as simple as that. I think it's just because he's so different from everybody else. He just had to find a way to cope with things.
Yes, yes,
cope
no, I
with
totally
his
agree.
reality.
mm.
I definitely don't think he's a psychopath or anything. I think he's just autistic.
And he just happens to be really big and good at killing things.
Yeah, he's good with but he's found a way to cope, like you said. Like he's gotten good. Like his insight from his rolling his dice and focusing himself is quite insightful. Like he's right. Every single time he mentions those kinds of things, like this, like just now, as he goes on to say, everybody's paired up, except for him, and he also it gave him a feeling of helplessness because the numbers X Y Z. So I think you're totally right, George.
Mm-hmm.
I would also enjoy it if there was a bit of magic there, and I will be doing a theory video about Friendly's dice rolling.
Okay. Okay. Excited to hear more about that. Yeah, he's able to observe that it's the nature of people to form pairs, and that even when he was in safety, Sajam had chosen to pair up with him. But Sajam, he was Friendly wasn't dumb about it. He knew that it was because Friendly was useful and feared, but Sajam didn't pretend. He was honest about it. So that's why Friendly stuck with him. And Sajam came back and paid for Friendly's freedom, which I guess you can do. Yeah. So then, anyway, now he's here in the company of these killers, and he's just kind of just still rolling his dice, and he goes, "Oh boy," he thinks everybody here is dishonest. He didn't note that, and then he sees that the guards are coming in two twos as well because they're looking at the bank. They're at the roof of their house, and they're looking at the bank across the way, and there's continuous patrols of guards, and it seems like there's two groups of four, and they follow each other all around the bank at night. But they probably follow each other in terms of like they maintain equal distance, at a steady pace. What else? He sees that so that one party turned the corner, and then that's when Shivers goes, "Here they come." So Morveer goes, "Start a count," and Day starts counting. 1, 2, 3, and Friendly,
Un, deux, trois.
Friendly is staring at her, and he is rock hard, my boys. He is. He is. Wow, we know what gets him going. It's a woman
Yeah,
count.
I feel bad for defending him earlier. This is just freaky.
Yeah. Nope. Nope. This man is just. He hears the number 10 and bing, and he is. Wow. So then Morveer is thinking out loud like how to reach the roof because how they have to gain access into the building. And Mercado suggests rope and grapple. He says too slow, too noisy, too uncertain. The rope is going to be left in plain view. They need a method that allows for no accidents. Friendly is wishing they shut up so he can focus on her counting because his cock was aching hard, which is why. Oh man. And then Mercado says that no one can climb up there. It's too smooth, too sheer, and the spikes are too. You have to worry about the spikes. And he goes, "I am complete agreement." So then they're just there's no way up the walls. They know because the north side of the building is busier and better lit. The east has the main entrance, and that also has an additional party of 4 guards that are posted there at all times. The south is identical to this wall that they're facing now. No.
It's a perfect defense system, isn't it? They've
Mhm.
got an excellent defensive system where they can just keep minimal guard on it, and who's going to try and break into a highly guarded bank anyway? That's
Exactly.
the main defense.
Mhm. And then
The psychological aspect of it, as proves as easy as it is to break in anyway.
yeah. And so then the other party comes around finally, and they goes, around 300 seconds, just give or take. And it's not enough time. So how do they do it? How are they going to do it? And then there's got to be some way. And then somebody says, "I can do it." And they all looked around, and Shivers is just chilling. It's Shivers that said that. And Morveer goes, "How can you do that?" And then Friendly says that he could just make the curve of the Northman's grin in the darkness magic. And that's the end of that chapter. How do you guys rate that? I already know how I'm going to rate it.
It's an odd one with the comedy ones because Friendly is obviously so fucked up, and so I think the new term is neurodivergent now, isn't it? Something like that.
Neurodivergent. Yeah, you're right.
So he's just so odd and strange that it's funny, but it's also sort of disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's really all it is. It's just him getting really fucking horny over the fact that day is counting, and that's it. Like he doesn't even look at it.
Hey, don't kink shame now, all right? Don't do that.
I'm not kink shaming. I'm not kink shaming.
Oh
Everybody's
my
got their
God.
thing. Everybody's got their thing, right?
Jeffrey has the same thing. Okay, so it's difficult for him to.
Wow, way to out me.
Jeffrey, we support you. Okay.
I'm gonna kill you, Harrison. So, how do you rate this, George?
I'll give it a 2 times 2. 2 times 2, 4.
You'll give it a 4. Okay, Harrison.
Yeah, I think a 3. For me,
Okay.
3 out of 9.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty short chapter, but you guys are right. As got get more insight into Friendly, and it's I like the comedy, and I like the way it's set up.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just gonna keep in line with the theme of the chapter, 2-2. So I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 9. Not a bad chapter, just that it's really short. It's basically Friendly getting his rocks off onto a young lady counting, and then we see them analyzing how to infiltrate the bank. And that's it. So we'll move on to our next segment, which is our community interaction segment. Now, normally Harrison takes lead on this. I figure why not let George do this one, since Harrison did the meme of the week.
Yeah, exactly. Harrison got a turn. So I posted an AI art of what I thought Castamorphia should look like, and it took me a little while. It took me like half an hour to kind of bump out the kinks and stuff like that in the image, make it look exactly how I wanted, and people were not very receptive to this. Which is
Really?
Yeah, no, not very at all. It got removed from the first law subreddit for one thing, which is fine. If you don't want AI, it's fine.
Yeah, you forgot that it's one of the rules, right? You were drunk, you said.
Yeah,
I think when you.
I did. I was quite drunk when I did this, but I was also like quite heartfelt at the time. I was like, all right, I'm going to make an effort and do something for the podcast. It was like
oh, nice.
prime time posting time for the East Coast, right? Like 6 o'clock on a Saturday.
Oh.
Like that. That's what I was thinking. Like good stuff. And I did enjoy it. There was a lot of really good, interesting. Like the picture that I posted was quite gaunt and sort of skinny, with his like rumpled suit on. He's like quite unkempt, even though he's bald. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was quite a good thing. Like quite slovenly, but at the same time very pretentious. But a lot of people were just kind of cursing out the fact that like subtle things were wrong, like 2 knobs on a drawer, or he's got like webbed fingers or something. You know, like he might be inbred. You don't know. But
Mhm.
all of that is available to see on the website. We post whatever we want on there regarding how we think a character should look, or even just an idea of it. I mean, one of the really really well received ones was Ladislaus' famous fucking shit eating grin.
Yes.
And nobody even questioned it was AI at that time because it was so funny.
Yeah. They we also post on Instagram with it as well.
Absolutely. So if you want to follow the Instagram for the AI art stuff that we do regarding characters and stuff like that, just follow us on there.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear on the AI art one, unless you're about to go into it, George, on our stance on it. We understand that like a lot of people have an issue with the direction it's going, and that's understandable. But there's going to be some good and there's going to be some bad with this, and we're just trying to use the good. I mean, none of Jeff can draw like a motherfucker, but like, what is he going to sit there and fucking just draw for the podcast all day? Draw First Law stuff all day. He's got a job and a life and stuff, and being able to use the AI art to kind of give us an idea or make our imaginations flow with what we think certain things would look like. It's fun, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So we just
Yeah, it's fun to do in your own free time. It's for us. Yeah, I mean, whatever.
share your opinions, but don't be hateful about it.
Yeah, don't be dicks. Do
Yeah,
not
definitely
be
don't call me a coward, you bastard.
dicks. Yeah, whoever called you a coward, George, that guy's a cunt. Fuck him. Or
Oh, I found him.
woman. Oh, you know who this is? Okay, good. Fuck him.
I dealt with him.
I bet you did. I hope you did. I mean, who gives a fuck? I mean, really. It's AI art that you created by typing in buttons into a keyboard, and boom, an image pops up. Ooh, big deal. Same kind of fucking concept of when people did Photoshop. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
not. Photoshop, you're putting a lot more time and effort into it, sure, but
The thing is like sometimes these AI art stuff takes a long time to get the prompts corrected, and there is a certain trick that you have to know to be able to use them. You can't just type whatever you want and expect it to come out perfect. There is a translation that you have to kind of learn. And
Right.
with that being said, too, it doesn't discredit any artist, in our opinion. If you feel that way, of course we understand, but just don't be mean about it.
as
I
long
mean, in a perfect world, every single artist that has been taken from in the program should be credited.
yeah,
Sure.
that's the thing. No, I don't really know how AI art works. I don't know if it's
Basically, the way it works is it just takes your prompt and then search for keywords, and then it will assemble an image based on pictures that have triggered those keywords.
Oh, so it does take from current existing art?
It takes from every single image on the internet.
It's not just art though. Sometimes it's going to be any image that's open on the internet. It takes from, so long as there's access to it. Yeah. So it's not. That's the thing. It's like sometimes it won't take from an artist. Sometimes it'll just take a fucking picture. Of like a stock photo. It'll use that.
Or a CCTV picture, or
like a Getty image. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
or somebody's Facebook profile picture or something like that.
Okay. All right. Well, here's what we're never going to use AI art to like sell or make money or anything.
No.
That's the thing.
It's just to help us with our imagining
Yeah.
First Law things.
Characters come to
Absolutely.
life. That's fine. Yeah. I maybe if I'll draw. Remember we mentioned that I would draw the three of us in like regal or dumbass poses.
You should definitely still do that at some point.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that at some point. That's gonna be my little next drawing project for the podcast, and maybe we'll give that out or something. I don't know. But yeah, in terms of AI art, we just post it on the Instagrams. I guess that's fine, right? Instagrams and yeah, just like I don't know, add a disclaimer or whatever the fuck case may be, but don't come for Georgie.
I mean,
don't do it. Don't do it.
I reckon as long as you're not making out that you made this yourself, it's not a big deal, right? Like I always say, Mid-Journey imagined this, or I used OpenAI or Diffusion or whatever to make this.
Okay. Yeah. And just be respectful. Yeah.
Absolutely, I respect all artists that and original art is never going to die. Everybody that's working on something to do with the first law when it comes to art or anything, you just keep doing it because
Yeah, and if you have any pieces that you want to kind of promote, send them our way. As long as you were not a dick to Georgie. If you were a dick to Georgie, because I'm not on Reddit like that. I don't scroll and see all the posts, so I didn't even know about all this until George just talked about it this morning. But next person I see being mean to George, I'm gonna curse you the fuck out.
Yeah, next time somebody's mean to George, just send us your, name, address, and phone number. Don't be a coward.
Yeah, you pussy, pussy.
It's like man. Fight like a man.
No, guys, go. It's fine. It's fine.
Yoke your ass up, boy. Okay, sorry.
I can
Anyway.
imagine how it feels like. I can imagine that it feels threatening.
Well,
Just like
okay,
when
I get that.
every single person that works in a shop got replaced by a robot.
Well, that is
Yeah.
scary. That
I
is
know,
scary.
And then-
but if your reaction is to be hateful towards others, you're part of the fucking problem. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Work
And-
against the problem, not the players.
And Georgie was drunk. All right. So that's the community interaction segment on AI art. Basically, we'll not post on Reddit again as long as we keep the bottle away from George. But we will post it on social media, just shits and giggles for imaginings or reimaginings, and that's about it. And just keep the dialogue and discourse respectful. Moving on. Our third and final chapitre, and this is plans and accidents. We start off this chapter from the perspective of Shivers, obviously, and he is, he's padding across the alleyway, getting, to the building. He's up within like a doorway or something, a shadowy little area, and he's getting ready to climb the pillar, one of the pillars.
Just like a tree, like
Just
back
like a-
in the old days.
Mm-hmm. So basically, what happens is, and he says to himself, he's always his own worst enemy. He just wanted to, slap the smile off Morvir's face and like show off to Monza like a fucking jackass.
like a 23-year-old.
Mm-hmm. So he pulled out a rope, and apparently it's a decent length. How would you say, like 6 feet long or whatever? 2 strides long.
6 feet.
5 feet, 4 feet. It's got to be long enough to go around the pillar.
Stride is about 2 foot, right?
Maybe.
So like
but Shivers-
1.6
I don't know.
meters.
Shivers
Your
is tall.
strides are much larger than mine, George.
Yeah, Shivers is tall. Got them long legs, boy.
I'm googling it.
All right. Anyway,
How long is a stride for a 6'5" man?
That's literally what I googled.
so on one end of the rope, there's it's basically like an eye. When I say eye, basically means like a hole, and on the other end there's a hook. So he's looking around, and he sees that the building across the street, a couple buildings, most of the windows are shuttered, but some of them are open, or at least not shuttered, and the lights are on. So he's just like, oh boy, there's a good chance that somebody can just look out the window and see him. But whatever, he's getting ready. He gets ready to climb onto the pillar, and then he hears a voice. Dun, dun, dun. Says, somewhere here. He goes, oh no. And he kind of freezes and brushes up against the pillar. And apparently it's 2 guards. They were coming back. They had never done this in their 50 circuits around the building. And it's just his luck, they're coming back now. And apparently one of them seems to have lost something, and so he goes, oh, fuck. And they're getting real close to the point now where he's behind the pillar, but he could see at least 2 of them. And they're, all they had to do is turn the corner and they see him. And then out of nowhere, we hear a feminine voice. We hear Mercado's voice, Monza's voice. We hear, please. And she walks out of there, and she doesn't have a sword on, but she tells them, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I'm only trying to get home, and I seem to have gotten myself completely lost.
She doesn't have to do much, does she?
No, she doesn't, because she's a good-looking woman. Don't forget that. And then one of the guards steps around the pillar to his back to Shivers, and this is how close they are. Shivers could just reach out and touch him. That's how close they are, but Shivers is behind them. So the guys are like, "Oh, where are you staying?" She goes, "Oh, near the fountain on Lord Sibeldi Street, but whatever." And then she laughs, and then they laugh, and they're like, "Oh, it's okay." And then now all 4 of those guards now, they're like, "Well, we'll help you. No, it's okay. Confusing plates. Westport's so nuts." And she goes, "Oh, I get lost here time to time." And they all just laugh, and they all just kind of walk around the corner and go. So Shivers has been saved, folks. So Shivers, he gets up on the base, swings the rope around, basically hooks the rope underneath his buddy, and then he shimmies up. I don't even know how to describe it, but basically he's using the rope to kind of
He
like
does that thing like they do in Mulan, when they walk up the pole. Just rope,
in
rope
what
and grip, rope. Have you never seen Mulan?
Moonland?
The classic, the Mulan.
Oh,
Mulan.
Mulan.
Sorry, I will pronounce it in your weird American way that you guys
Sorry,
do.
you pronounced it wrong. Pronounce it wrong. Mulan.
In the movie, they do not say Mulan.
They say Mulan. You
It's
goofball.
Milan, yeah.
Mulan.
Oh
Oh
my god.
my god, Jesus. All right, basically like that, like in Mulan. Jeez. So that's how he goes. He climbs up. It's a trick that his brother taught him back when they would climb the very tall trees in the Valley of the North, the valleys of the North, or what have you. Quick and smooth, and what else? He gets near to the top, basically. Then he hears Day kind of go psst to him, and he looks down, and the other group of guards are passing now. So he has to like kind of press himself close to the stonework and just pretend they don't look up, so he can kind of like blend in with the stones. And then they pass. Everything's fine. So he looks up and he sees that there's spikes all around the top of the roof of the building, but where there's spikes on the stones, right on the pillars, they're mortared, right, instead of being on poles or whatever. So
Yeah.
so then he takes so he pulls out his gloves, grabs two spikes, he lets go of the pillar, he swings himself up, and one spike, is like he's like staring cross-eyed at this, the point of one spike, and he's like, oh, it's just like pulling yourself into the branches of a tree, except for the chance of taking out your eye. So it'd be nice to come out of this whole thing with both of his eyes. And then he, swings, heaves, and then he just gets up over and he's on top of the roof. Good job, Shivers. Then we cut over to to Friendly, I believe. And then he's counting, and he made it in 80 seconds or so, and that's pretty good. And then Day and Morvia can't believe it. Like, oh wow, who thought he could climb like an ape? Dun dun dun. And then we noticed that Shivers didn't mention it before, but he had a flat bow on his back. And then we see Shivers on the other side. He takes aim and he fires, and the bolt had thudded right into Friendly's chest. And apparently, the bolt it didn't have a point on it.
Yeah, just a flat wooden bolt.
Yeah. So, but it was attached.
Quarrel, actually.
And it was just attached to a wire, a rope. So they toss the bolt away. They get the wire. Then they tie some like fancy Soljuk cord, Soljuk silk cord.
Which is probably just silk, right?
Yeah.
Because silk is known for being extremely fucking strong.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, tie the end of silk to that wire. Shivers then pulls it back across. Then Friendly and Shivers, they tie both ends nice and taut to either place, like a bracket or what have you. And then now there's a taut black line, but everyone knew that it was there, but you can really see it. You can't really see it in the darkness. So Day gestures to, like, after you, Friendly. So Friendly goes first. Then I guess it's Day, and then it's Morvir. And then Morvir looks up when he gets across the building, gets to the bank, and he sees Shivers just kind of, smiling. And Morvir's like, is this a good joke? And then, Shivers is just laughing, I guess, because, Morvir isn't as flexible and as agile as he used to be, right, boys?
It's kind of implied, even though because we mostly see how Morvir seems like he's self-reflective, like he thinks of himself a lot. Obviously, very narcissistic and things. But it's difficult for him to see flaws in himself. And so anytime we see his perspective, he always acts like he's a fucking like god of everything. He can do anything, and he's so intelligent, perfect. But judging by how everybody else sees him and how some of these moments here, I mean, and his age, he's got to be, in his 50s. And this time period, even if you take care of yourself, you're gonna start slowing down. It's like it's difficult to be able to do what you could before.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed, but again, it's still pretty impressive that he can still do this in his 50s. Like for a
Yeah.
man that's spent most of his life looking over fucking potion bottles and making brews, eating what he wants, except in the mornings. We'll find that out later, but I think it's an interesting thing to see Morphea just, even though he's got a weird kind of warped view of the world, he just focuses on this one thing that he has to do well, and he's known for it. I just think that's it's such an interesting perspective,
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true. Very true. Basically, Shivers just makes a joke. He says that, how long are you going to be in there? And Morphe goes, precisely as long as I need to be. And then Shivers just goes, well, better be quicker than you did across that rope, or else you're going to be in there when they open. And then he just like scurries across. And then Morphe goes, if there is a God, he has cursed me through who I acquaint myself with. Anyway, so they get to the glass roof. And, not Shivers, Morphe pulls out his... whatchamacallit, he has pliers, he has a bunch of stuff, and he's pretty quick with this. He pulls out the panes, like 9 panes at least. Makes like a bit of a diamond shape, and so a diamond shaped hole in this glass roof here. And then perfect timing as we see a guard, the one guard in the entire building, because remember they lock in one guy overnight. And he's like, just like walking, guarding and everything, doing guarding things. And then Moria pulls out his little blowpipe, and he goes, and then the guy goes, ah, he touches his head, and then he just basically kind of, Morvir kind of peeks, pulls away from the window, but then you hear like a little bit of a, and then he falls, boom, and now the guy is down for the count, and so then they lower a rope, they tie one end of the rope to Friendly, to his waist. And Morvir's like, can you take my weight? And Friendly goes, yes. Not even a question. And he lowers him away like a machine, just like a nice smooth, like, and then there's, Morvir is in, easy peasy. Then it's day. And then, and then he goes, yep, it's nice and empty. Him and Day. I guess Friendly stays up on the roof to pull them up, it seems like. And, and he goes, she asks him, they ask him, Morvir, like, is it clear? He goes, yep, it's all clear, all according to plan. And what do we most despise after all?
Mustard
And
accidents.
correct. Who hates mustard? I love mustard.
I love mustard too.
Oh yeah, it's probably because of the mustard root, right? He mentions mustard root as a poison several times.
Oh, right. Maybe. So they look down at the guard, and then they carry him to his desk in his office. And this man is snoring. He's knocked out. And so what they did is they took an empty bottle of spirits of liquor, put it on the floor next to his boot. And then they had another bottle that's half full, and they kind of just like sloshed it down the front of his shirt and everything. And then they just kind of just put it like they staged it that he got fucking hammered. It's like not cool, man. And he's gonna deny. He'll deny.
That poor guy, that poor man.
Yeah, I don't even think they're gonna. We'll see. We'll talk about this afterwards. But man, he's gonna get fired because he fell asleep on the job. But he's gonna be innocent. He's gonna be like, no, I swear to God, I wasn't drinking. But I mean, there's bottles everywhere.
Best case scenario. The best case scenario, he gets fired. Oh my God.
Yeah, for real. And then they,
body found fighting by the dogs.
Oh, probably. Morvir plucks the needle from the blowpipe out of his head. So there's no evidence. And then, everything's going to be perfect. It's going to be as normal as it can be, except it's not going to be normal because the banking house of Valentin Balk will contain a deadly secret. Dun, dun, dun! And then they make their way to Malthus's office. They pick the lock. It's an easy lock to pick, apparently. And they're not even there to steal anyway. They're there to leave a gift. Dun, dun, dun. And then Morvir goes to the ledger that Malthus had opened and was using to count, to write, to, inscribe, counts and all that stuff. And remember, Morvir didn't note that Malthus had this thing where he lick his thumb, his finger, or whatever, and then
Mm.
flick and turn the page over. So
I find that interesting that that isn't one of the major things that Morpheus brought up when he was doing his whole detailed survey in the last chapter.
yeah.
You know what I mean? When he
Mm.
was going through and he was like noticing things. That was one of the things that he didn't really notice at the
No,
time.
he did. He smiled and he was like, I found how I'm gonna get him.
Oh, excellent.
He did.
They
He
proved
did.
you wrong then.
I got you right now. Harrison, talk about something while I find this.
I think that it's funny how every single moment in Morpheus POV, and we don't highlight it every single time. It's funny, but almost every single moment we're in his head, he's always congratulating himself or is flaunting himself, and he doesn't even always do it to other people. He just does it in his own head. It's ridiculous. It's constant.
And in his own head, he's like, absolutely right for doing that. This is good.
Exactly. And
Yep.
I know we kind of glossed over it here, but the thing he talks about with there's a little bit of baggage there for some reason. That was like that always makes you go, oh, whenever he sees Day and he's like, oh yeah, no, good job, Day. But he could only smile at her because he couldn't really truly show her his true admiration for how far she's come as an apprentice. And you're like, okay. And for how deep his affection really was. I'm like, oh, oh no.
Oh yeah. No.
That it always is. Every single time I read that, it's like, okay, oh, it's not very pleasant to read.
And apparently that everybody has betrayed him. The orphanage, his apprenticeship, his marriage, his working life. It seems odd that so many people betrayed him.
That is literally the first thing about being a narcissist, right? You think that everybody's against you.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Yes.
And now I took George to get back to what we mentioned earlier. Page 133. He, mouth is show no emotion at the number. He opened the heavy cover of a huge ledger upon his desk. He licked one finger.
You got me.
And then Moore felt
you got me.
warm satisfaction spread out from his stomach to every.
That's right, folks. Score.
Score for
Jeffrey,
me.
24 points. George, 694.
Love that. Great. Thanks, Harrison. So then basically this is what he does. They get a bottle of a poison, open it up. Morvir takes a very fine paintbrush, one that a real artist would use, not an AI artist. And then he would just do like a very nice like little flick of the brush to the corners of each and every page in the ledger. So then nice and precise and smooth. And then boom, they close the ledger. And then that's it. And then Day goes, okay, great, let's go. I'm hungry. And Morvir goes, go. We are not finished. You got to earn your supper. We have a long night's work ahead of us. A very long night's work. So, I wonder what they're going to do. So then they...
I really feel like there could have been a really easier solution to this, right?
What's your easier...
I'm just going to pick this apart for a little second here, right?
Go for it.
So Malthus has an office with a chair. So just put a poison spike in his chair.
Interesting.
Well, the whole point is that they don't get caught or incriminated.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have fingerprint technology here, right? They can't figure out who's put a needle in a chair.
Yeah, but he would see a needle.
Would he?
He probably would, yes.
Even like a tiny little...
I don't know.
That's a good point, though,
no?
George.
And with the padded chair as well, you don't have to put it like on the surface. You can literally just put it underneath, like an inch below the surface, because when you sit down, it sinks down.
But knowing Morvir, even if he did that to one chair, he'd just do it to all of them.
Yeah.
And the reason why he doesn't do that because the plot needs to happen.
Yeah. But I will say, other than the chair thing, there isn't. They don't really have that many other choices for this method.
Mm-hmm.
They do a good job. I think Joe does a pretty good job at showing how, like,
it's a very clever application, isn't it? It's like something that would. It's just a specific habit to that specific job. Yeah. He's been very, very clever about it, and I can definitely see Morvir making things more complicated than they need to be to make himself look clever.
Yes, he might have thought, "Oh, I could put it in the chair," And then it was like, nah, but that doesn't have enough flourish.
Maybe, maybe. Well, we'll get to the results of what Morvir and Day are doing in the next episode. But anyway, so then we switch over to Shiver's perspective. He nearly jumps when he hears Monza say "here." She came out of nowhere. The guards followed her nearly halfway to Lord Sibeldi Street. He, and but she was able to shake them off. She's surprised in a way that Shivers was able to climb to the pillar, and the whole plan seems to be working.
She's like, yeah, you were such a big, strong man.
Yeah. Anyway, so he gave her he's a little chilly, but not really. And he gives her a bottle of liquor for her to drink, to help keep her warm while they wait for the mission to be completed. She's like watching him, and they're watching each other. They kind of like look at each other when the other one's not looking, right? And then so Friendly's with Morvir and Day. Yep, he's just filling her in. And then there's Monza says, "Well, there's not much for us to do but wait and get colder." Then he goes, "Yeah, no, not much unless you want my hair to get cut any shorter." And then she makes jokes about getting the scissors, being scared to have scissors near him again. So he gives out the bottle again, and he goes, she thanks him for the liquor, and then he goes, "Not a worry, Chief. Anything I can do, just let me know." And I guess like a few seconds have passed, and he turns to look at her, and she's just staring right at him, and she has he could tell she's working something out in her head, and she goes, "There is one other thing," and then we cut back to Morvir's perspective, and they put the glass back into the panes back into like the lead, what would you call it, the frame of the roof, and they're ready to basically head back over. It's not gonna stop a rainstorm maybe, but it's gonna do the job, until after everything's done. People are gonna be confused as to what happened. So, and she asked about, what about the rope? Like, somebody's gonna have to untie it. You can't just leave it up here, or it's gonna be very obvious as to like where the intruders came from, etc. Morvir goes, "Don't you worry. I just put a few drops of this little thingy, and it's gonna burn through the knot after we've already crossed. We don't, and then all we have to do is just wait at the far side and reel it in." And she's like, seems like, what if it burns like quick?" He goes, "Don't worry." And so he goes, "Look, if you want, go ahead first." So Friendly and Day go first, and then he goes, "Alrighty." So then he puts a couple drops. Then he goes, maybe a little bit more, just to be safe. No one wants to wait till the morning, right? And then he hooks his shoe over the rope, and then next thing you know, one of the spikes had tore his leg pant, right? And now his leg is kind of like stuck in the spike almost. He's not cut or anything, but it's kind of just stuck. And he's like, "God damn it!" And now he can see that there's some smoke, unfurling from where he had put the drops of acid. And now he realizes that the acid is acting more swiftly than anticipated. He goes, "Oh shit!" So then, he cut the cloth away from the spike, but he accidentally cut himself though. And this edge of the scalpel had a larynx tincture. It was tainted with it, and it had always given him nausea in the morning. So he allowed his resistance to kind of fade. And that it's not going to be fatal by itself, but it might cause him to drop off the rope. So now he's scrambling to find an antidote.
It's getting worse and worse.
He's getting worse and worse. So he's like, he has all these like bottles, these antidotes in his robes, finds the right one, because each bottle is etched with the mark that he can identify by touch. So he knows, which antidote is what.
It's pretty
Find
genius.
the right one,
It
drink.
invented Braille.
Basically, Braille. Yeah, Braille. There you go. And then it's disgusting antidote. He almost like throws up, or he practically does. He's like dizzy. He's holding onto the rope. He's got to climb. He's got to do it. So he's now he's got to move. He's got to move because he smells the smoke. He's he's taking way too long for the shit. And then finally, his stomach turns again while he's like halfway there, and then he kind of stops and he goes, "Okay." and then he's almost there. Then he looks up, he sees Friendly on the other side. His arm is out to him. Just a few strides. That's it. Just a few strides. And then and then he's like, wait a minute, is they smiling at me a little bit? What the fuck? And then he hears a faint ripping sound from the other side of the rope. And next thing you know, Morvier is falling. He's falling and falling, and he's swinging. He's holding onto the rope, and then the building is coming up to him, is coming to meet him real fast, and he starts screaming. And then next thing you know, he crashes right through some wood, and he falls, and he can't. He just keeps falling, at least in his mind's eye. And then he finally just kind of like lands on some floorboards.
I like to think that he screams after he's still screaming, like after he's hit the ground. He's just sitting there like.
Yep. And then next thing you know, he finds himself grabbed by the neck and flung to a wall. And then he just hears, "You, what the fuck?" And it's Shivers. And he goes, "Oh, Shivers." And he goes, for some reason, because Morvier is groggy at this point, he goes, "It's entirely naked." And he just sees Mercado on a bed, propped up on her elbows with her shirt open and her breasts flattened against her ribs. And she looks at him with like barely anything more than a mild surprise. And then Morvier goes,
I want to do this bit.
"Okay,
She goes
go ahead,
like,
do it."
She goes like, why are you smoking?
Yeah, he goes, he's like, "I see what happened here. I interrupted them mid-coitus." And then after, Monza asks, "Why are you smoking?" He sees the husk pipe on the nightstand. He goes, "Oh, listen, you were confused, but it's easy to see why. That stuff is poison." All right.
It's you that has been smoking.
But then she goes, "Mm-mm." She points and she goes, "Smoking, idiot." And he looks down and go ahead, George.
It's just such a simple joke, isn't it? It's just such a stupid little pun.
It's like,
But it's so funny, but just because of the context.
Yep. And then he looks down, and apparently one of the bottles must have been broken in the fall, and it's like acid. So he, takes off his shirt before it burns through to him, and he's, "Damn it!" And so then the three of them are staring at the jacket that he just took off, his shirt, and now he realized that it's a weird fate that all three of them at least are half naked. And Morvier clears his throat. He goes, "My apologies." Plainly, this was not part of the plan. And now that chapter has been ended. Boys, how do you rate that chapter?
Oh, Morvier was definitely hoping for a threesome there, all right?
Oh, that is not.
I don't think so.
That's a train, folks. That is a train.
He'd be like, "Sex with a husk addict and a dumb brute. I would never
Like
stoop
I would
to such
shame myself
lowly."
like that.
Yeah.
I do not want to get my back blown out by a savage.
Yeah. If he could even find the right place. They aren't I funny? They? Yeah, no, I don't think he would.
No, I don't think he was hoping for a threesome, not at all. Oh, so how do you rate it?
Why don't you rate it, Jeff? I was gonna...
I'll do this one.
Go ahead, George.
I absolutely fucking love this chapter. I'm gonna give it a 7
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good one.
because it's just more Virante and being a weirdo, and Shivers reflecting on his past as he always does. That's who Shivers is. He's trying to be a better man, so he's reflecting and he's becoming more wise. We hope.
Wise beyond his young years. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. He hasn't done anything too bad yet. And then we get Morpheus performing his perfect art. This is just him being in his element, and he's just like he's such an ass about it. It's like, well, obviously everyone knows that you should do this, and we're going to do it this way, even though I've just come up with a much better way of doing it in like 10 seconds.
I think you need to talk to Joe about that, George.
But I love the way that it's not optimal. It doesn't have to be optimal.
Yeah.
Like people have bad ideas, and they're like, "Oh, this is the way we're going to go," and they just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way the world works. Like nobody ever has the best fucking idea ever.
Yeah.
Even if it seems obvious in hindsight.
Unless you're Napoleon.
Unless, well, we'll talk about that some other time.
Well, everything did go swimmingly until he put a too many.
This isn't the fucking Epic History TV channel. Come on.
Oh, all right, I'm just saying. Everything went fine until he put too much acid on the rope. That's all I'm saying.
George thought you were trying to talk about Napoleon.
No,
Oh,
no,
shit,
no.
yeah.
Talking about
Anyways.
the chapter. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Harrison.
so I reckon I'm definitely going to give it a 7. Just for that.
Okay.
It's so fucking good.
Mm-hmm. Harrison?
Yeah, I think I agree with George for the most part. I like it. I think I'm gonna get a 6 and a knuckle. I enjoyed the chapter a lot. I guess you get a lot of everybody's kind of perspectives in this moment, like Morvere's, and you see a lot of Monza's character and Shivers, kind of that they're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's always so. This chapter always feels like I'm just kind of reading through it. There's nothing like kind of outstanding except for the very last end part, which is hilarious. But it's just I feel like it's still we're getting building blocks for the characters. It's really well written, got a good balance. But I think a 6 and a knuckle is what I'm gonna rate it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna agree with you, Harrison. I think a 6 and a knuckle for me as well. It's a fun chapter to read. It's hilarious. You get some tension with Shivers almost being caught, and then Monza coming to the rescue by doing the whole damsel in distress kind of thing. Shivers proves his worth by climbing that pillar like a champion. And then we have Morvir and Day in their element. We get to see, Friendly's just like natural functional strength. We see Morvir and Day in their element, like I was saying. And they're good at what they do. They are very good. It seems like they have like a system down pat. They're expert. B&Es. Breaking and entering, that kind of stuff. And then we'll see the ramifications of their job in the next chapter. But it's good. And then the comedy comes from obviously their banter, Morvir's self-delusion, and then Morvir just some physical comedy with Morvir, which is fantastic. So 6 and a knuckle for me. Alrighty, so that's the end of our chapter read-through, and we will move on to our final segment, which is going to be our character spot. Boys, who are we going to spotlight today?
We're just going to do the guards, right? All of the various guards throughout this.
The night guard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the failures. The ones that just let it slip through. It's just a job. I'm gonna march around this building for 12 hours and then whatever.
Yeah, I think the first thing we got to mention is how the fuck do you lose something when you walk in a circle? Huh? Like, what are you losing?
That may be a flaw.
Maybe they have just like really shallow pockets, and when you just walk, things just fall out your pocket.
But what?
Maybe it's a regular occurrence. It seems like it's not uncommon to them,
No, it was very common. Remember, he said that out of the 500 times they watched him walk around the place, they'd only turn back like one time.
Okay.
No, out of 50 circuits, they never turn back.
Okay, 50 circuits is a lot.
Yeah. So it's not common.
It's not a large sample size though.
That's true. It's not a large sample size, but still, it's that's a goofball, right? And then we have what? We have the guards that easily get distracted by Monza.
But they're all really like nice and gentlemanly, aren't they?
They are, aren't they? They're like, "Ah, shucks, lady."
I get lost around here all the time as well. I've just moved here too. It's just so relatable, like, especially with if you ever interact with police in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Like, every single police officer in the UK is so polite.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's a good because that's how you diffuse tension, right? And that's
yeah,
the best way to avoid confrontation.
You're correct, George, but the American police system does not work that way.
Yeah, no, you just pull your gun and start shooting at them, and then
well,
if they're
maybe
still
not
alive,
that, but
you sue them.
America, baby.
and then you get free leave because you've got PTSD.
Oh God.
So I think I like the guards. Being a guard inside of a book or inside of a movie is always the hardest thing ever, right? Because if you think about it, yeah, exactly. In most jobs, in real life, most guard positions, you're not going to be doing anything, or nothing exciting is going to happen probably the entire time you work there. Even back then, Banking House of Allen and Bulk is known to be like untouchable. You know, like you don't fuck with the Banking House of Allen and Bulk. Everybody knows that. You don't deal with that. These guys have like probably good pay. You know, that they've had some experience, but they have a normal job, something that's not super common in this time period. You know, they just go to work and blah blah blah. And yeah, but you know, the plot demands that they fail at their job.
Well, I don't
It's
know. I don't know.
inevitable.
That's the thing, right? I don't know if they do have good pay, and I don't know if they have do have good conditions. Because in the one, we're not going to talk about Sharp Ends right now, but in a Sharp Ends chapter, we see somebody
point,
that
yeah.
works for Valiant and Bulk in, I think it's Dagoska.
No, it's in Westport.
No, it is in Westport actually at this event, and they do not have good pay, even though they have like very specific skills.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So
But-
what they're going to pay? What they're going to pay a guard? I bet they have to buy their armor.
Yeah,
When you go to a new job and they're like, you have to buy your uniform.
Yeah, probably.
That's a red flag. Just if you didn't know.
That's a good point. But it's kind of like these guys didn't really do anything wrong. They were nice to a lady who needed some help in their mind. And the other guy, he just was sitting there. He was awake doing his job, and then he got knocked out, and then he got framed and probably lost his job and his reputation. Like, these guys are just doing their own thing. I like how completely ordinary and very like NPC box standard these guards are.
Mm-hmm.
I always expect, like, each time I see read this part, I'm like waiting for like the little moment where you find out how human the guards are. But no, it's just like they're just dudes.
But I find that none of the main characters are interested enough to find out. Because in any other story, like, they'd be interacting with them, wouldn't they? They're like start a conversation. It's like, oh, I feel bad for this guy. Maybe there's a way we can work this out. And
Yeah, they don't even do. Yeah,
I'm gonna knock him out and dose him with alcohol and frame him.
yeah. There's no qualms. Yeah.
I feel especially sorry for that guy. That
Yeah.
guy in the back.
Yeah.
They said he was the most vigilant guard, right? And they said he had 20 years service or something like that. This guy has been doing his job absolutely perfectly. And I was like, the main banker got poisoned under your watch and you were drunk. And I was like, but I wasn't drunk. Like, what the fuck? Can you imagine that? What the fuck?
That sucks so much.
Oh man, that's so funny. Oh, poor
But yeah.
guy.
All of those guys, they're all kind of stand-up dudes, aren't they?
Yeah, so far we don't see they're not dicks. They take their job seriously.
Just
Yeah,
dudes.
Just dudes.
Go
They're
to
just
job. Go to work. Just
trying to
go
get
to
paid,
work.
baby. That's it. Just trying to buy some bread. Feed their families. Maybe have a little sewing business on the side. You never know. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Or some choreography or something. I don't know.
Yeah, some filmography, some photography, some knitting, photography. I don't know. Yeah, and now we can safely assume that they're gonna get the shit end of the stick. At least one of them. We know one of them is definitely gonna get the shit end of the stick. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot.
Join us next time as we cover Repaid in Full and Fogs and Whispers.
And make sure you sign up for the House of the Meme Maker memeing every chapter for Best Served Cold. Literally right now, there's loads of chapters available. Go for it. And we have a website, it's socialoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any podcast app that you use. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast. Thank you all again for listening.
You bastards never learn.